Hello and welcome to FinTech Impact. I'm your host, Jason Pereira. Today on the show, I have Marla Sofer, founder and CEO of Knomee. Knomee is a behavioral finance and intelligence application that helps wealth managers better discover what is driving their clients, helping them form better understanding of their core values and their goals so they can have deeper engagements. And with that, here's my interview with Marla. Marla, thanks for your time today.
I'm delighted to be here, Jason. Thank you for having me.
Oh, Marla Sofer of Knomee. Tell us about Knomee.
Here is what Knomi's all about, Jason. All advisors offer plans and portfolios. I help them stand out by understanding how clients and prospects actually think and decide so that they can differentiate their service, build trust, and scale.
Fantastic. The old expressed concerns or expressed desires versus actually stated ones. So we'll jump into that later. All right. So talk to me about how it came to be. What was the origin of it?
Yeah, so I've been in this industry for 22 years and I was a licensed advisor. I was a private banker in New York. I served ultra high net worth and high net worth Latin and South American clients. Did that for some time and then I got this great job at JPMorgan where I worked in the guts of our industry in asset management product manufacturing. So I was at JPMorgan for 6 years. I covered all asset managers west of the Mississippi and everything that they needed deep in the operational guts of the investing ecosystem. So, everything around trade settlement, fund accounting, fund administration, corporate action processing, proxy voting, everything that happens at the deep, deep global custodian level, and how banks service the products that we sell. Then I spent 5 years at BlackRock. And at BlackRock, I was responsible for that set of providers, banks, index licensors, and data providers. So it was $1 billion in annual spend when I was at BlackRock. And I learned a lot more about how we make the sausage that we sell to our clients. And two things happened. I realized one, my cup is not full. I felt like I am not helping anyone live a better life. And
Mm,
that's why I got into this industry in the first place, number one. Number two, I realized as an industry, when we manufacture products that are intended to help people live better lives, we really don't know anything about that client. We don't know anything about that firefighter on the advertisement or the teacher that we like to talk about. And we don't understand how they define good, how they define retirement, how they define happy, comfortable, security. We don't know any of that. And I actually moved into fintech 10 years ago, ran partnerships at several different fintech companies, was deep in the wealth tech ecosystem. I was part of Invesco's digital strategy, learned a lot about the advisor tech stack and the interoperability pains. I did a lot of M&A there. I ran a financial services strategy at Microsoft and learned a lot about what is the power of tech? What's the future of tech? How does it power the future of what financial services wants to mean to the clients that it serves? And my big real takeaway and what led me to launch Knomee was we're an industry entirely focused on product. We are entirely focused on the sale and we're incentivized to sell product. However, what drives growth, what drives differentiation is being focused on solutioning, being focused on the client and how they define what they need solved in order to actually drive that next iteration of the industry. After all of this experience in wealth, in asset management, in wealth tech, in big tech, I realized we have a data gap. And that data gap is what really informs what needs solving. How do I guide a client to share what really matters? And then feed that into the supply chain, starting with the front line, the wealth manager, the banker, the whoever it is that's working with that individual to help them deliver more value. What does value mean? The client should define that value. So that's really the origin story of Knomee. Knomee is seeing this big, massive Grand Canyon size gap and recognizing nobody's filling this. I think I can.
fantastic. Yep. It's to say it's a known problem at the risk of sounding like it's a pun, but oftentimes, first off, the incentives absolutely drive action. So not surprising, most of the industry is orchestrated itself around the actual distribution of product because that's how they get incentivized. But then the second piece of this is that we ask questions, even good advisors ask questions of clients they never maybe haven't asked themselves. Like, tell me what your goals are. Don't want to retire. Okay, what's that look like? I haven't had time to think about it. I want my kids to go through school. Okay, what school do you want to go to? I haven't really thought about that. So we all get busy living life, and sometimes we become the thing that focuses them and gets them to better start to actualize or to define what they want to get out of life. But most people, it's an unstructured process. So talk to me about how you bring structure to this.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I would also add, it's not that they don't even ask themselves the question. Sometimes they don't want to, they don't know how to.
Yes.
It doesn't even, a lot of advisors got into this business because they like numbers. And all of a sudden they realize, wait a second, this is about emotions. Every financial decision
The
is
engineer
backed by
discovering they're a
emotion.
therapist. There we go.
Exactly. And I think that happens all the time. Okay, so how do we structure the data? So, about 5 years ago, I reached out to Dr. Megan Lertz after seeing that she was writing on the Kids' platform.
Amongst other
And
places and all over the place, but that's just Meg. Sorry, Meg's a French, but she's also on the channel.
yes, she is omni-channel. That I
Yes.
found her because of an article she wrote. And I thought, I've got to meet this woman. And so I reached out to her and I came up, I told her my idea. And I said, Meg, at the beginning, it was like a concept of a financial identity, a dynamic financial identity that is always updating with the right information. And so we just started talking about what that actually means. And the goal of it was if I want to know which financial product is right for me, the answer 100% of the time is going to be it depends. What does it depend on? That is what the financial identity solves. That is what Knomee is built to address. There's 8 dimensions of you, and we broke it all out into to get really geeky, it's a knowledge graph. It's all of these different dimensions of data that are constantly in flux. Some of them are constantly in flux, some of them are static. A lot of them are in flux. And those data bits answer the question, what does it depend on? And so that is the structure at a very basic level. Now, what are some of those dimensions? Some of them are things you may know and that we're well trained on. Your risk tolerance, your risk profile, it goes way beyond your risk tolerance, but basically your attitude. And so risk falls under attitudes. And that's one of the dimensions. Your age, who you share your money with, where you live, how your spending habits operate. Great. Those are all the ones we know. And that's only what we consider 14% of the story. There is the other side, which is how do you believe about money? What are your money beliefs and the
Mm.
scripts in your head? What are the things that you define as okay? What does okay mean? What does good mean? How do you envision your future? What are the values that are driving that vision of your future and what good will look like down the line? So, if you want to be philanthropic, to what kinds of causes and why? And how is that philanthropy going to take shape? It can take shape in lots of different ways. So there's a whole lot of structure and nuance into defining those really critical key elements, but all of it is for the purpose of what does it depend on? If I want to know which financial product is right for me and the answer is it depends, I need to define what does it depend on. And so that's the guide.
All right. So lots going on, but okay. Let's talk about the experience, right? From a client standpoint. I'm a client. I get signed up with an advisor who's using Knomee. When do I experience what it is you have to offer, and how do I go about what does that look like actually?
Can I pause you right there?
All
And
right.
I will walk through the experience, but I do want to throw in you don't have to be a client. You can be a
Okay.
prospect. You can find this advisory firm that is using Knomee to connect with you because that advisory firm put up an ad, a blog, a direct email or email
Mhm.
campaign. And so you don't have to be a client. You can be a prospect who's interested. We're actually launching a product called the Conversion Intelligence Engine. And so think of it as like on steroids, prospect enrichment plus what do I need to say to actually get to conversion faster and better? Okay, so what's the experience like? I just wanted to clarify it's not just for clients, it's for prospects also. The experience is modeled after several very familiar consumer experiences deliberately. We want a prospect or a client to come in and say, I know how to do that. That's fun. That feels like other apps that I do all the time. The apps that are our inspiration are Noom, Duolingo, Hinge, Strava. There's a couple of components from Calm and Headspace.
Mhm.
There's a couple of components from Tinder. And so we pulled from consumer user experiences, particularly those whose job to be done, whose goal as an app is to get you to create a profile. So it is the profile creation process that we gamify and modularize into these short 30 to 90-second adventures. And these adventures stack on each other. They're configurable and they basically generate data that compounds on itself and it creates a data value flywheel. And as that data compounds, it delivers in the experience back to the client or prospect immediate value and it helps them understand how do I get value out of this wealth management relationship? How do I articulate my needs better so that when I get into that meeting, I'm prepared and I know how to have agency in the way that I'm talking with this wealth manager for a first time or for the 100th time?
Okay. Right. So no surprise. I mean, I shouldn't say surprise. Wise decision. You decided to basically take instruction from those who've proven that they can make this work, who basically have created great experiences and informed that. And then again, the entire idea of your layering data, because I think you're right. There's no one questionnaire that's going to give you full insight into someone. It's a mosaic of things that come together, I would say.
100%. So the decision is to model after what works. Hundreds of billions of dollars have been poured into these consumer apps. A lot of them are rooted in psychology. They're rooted in decision readiness, decision making. Profile building is phenomenal. Like you think about how much data people share today about their exercise habits, their eating habits, their mental health. There's been a lot of testing done. There's no reason to pour more money into it. You can
No.
actually model after the apps that are doing this the best possible way today. So we already know what consumers are engaged by, and now it's just a matter of applying it to our industry. And then to your point, a huge part of Knomee's ethos and philosophy is that discovery and becoming known is not one and done. You don't go through one questionnaire or one survey or one assessment and get an archetype that says you're a blinky blinky. This is what that means. That's not how being known works. That's not how building trust works. It's ongoing and it's dynamic. And so we've built the app to be reflective of that.
So you're basically effectively, you're not trying to create a new Myers-Briggs score effectively.
That's exactly right. Because
Yeah.
number one, a score is a limited, it's very limiting. A score or a label is a
Yeah.
limiting way of describing what someone needs. And number two, it's static. So I've gone through it, I got my score, I'm done. That's not how it works when you're making financial decisions hundreds of times a day in many cases. So, how do I help you make the right financial decisions? How do I help you build trust in me as your proxy, as your fiduciary? Because I'm making financial decisions for you. And so that needs to constantly be updated by what is my guide? What is my framework of accountability as I'm making these financial decisions on your behalf?
Okay. So tell me how you basically went around the process of actually trying to like create all this scores, put this profile together. And then with that, what's the end output that actually gets put in front of an advisor that makes it possible for them to understand what it was discovered?
Okay, so the process is very rooted in research. It's very rooted in behavioral finance. It's recognizing how people want to be known. One of the first things we did was just a ton of testing. We've tested on over 4,500 people. And what we recognized is a lot of times people are pushed questionnaires or surveys that they don't know how to answer. A
Mm,
lot of advisors ask this horrible question: what are your
yeah.
goals?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody knows how to answer the question, what are your goals? And they need to be guided. And so, in my very first pitch deck, I had this great image of when you're building a relationship, you don't crawl in through the bathroom window. You actually are invited in through the front door. You sit on the couch and you start to get to know somebody. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And so that is really the experience that we're looking to replicate. Come in, sit on my couch, tell me a little bit about yourself. And so we don't start with the hard, vulnerable, very exposing questions that can frankly sacrifice trust. We don't scrape public data that can sacrifice trust. We actually encourage and advise a client or a prospect to want to be known and to share what's going to be most relevant to giving them value back. And so we start with asking about joy. What makes you happy? What are the things? What is a recent experience that brought you joy? Which is a very, very nuanced, very research based way of asking the question. It sounds easy, it's not easy. It's a huge part of our IP that we did a ton of work on. If you ask someone what makes you happy, that's hard to answer. If you ask somebody, what did you do last week that made you happy? Now I can answer. And so I'm just giving you one sample that gives you a reflection of a tremendous amount of research and testing that brought us to one question in our multitude of many ways that we ask questions and stack them together and sequence them in a way that helps the client feel like I'm just getting to know you. I'm getting to know you in a way that helps me give you more value. The more you put in, the more value I can feed back. And so that's the structure of it. Forgive me, what was the second part of your question, Jason?
So what's the output look like to the advisor?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Okay. So the output, number one, it's important to share that the client or prospect also gets the output. So there's two components of the output. There is a kind of light variation on the raw data. Here's what you told me. I'm just sharing back with you what you told me, and I'm sharing with the advisor what you told me. Here's the question that we asked. Here's the feedback that we got. In the very early stages of Knomee, we went out to advisors and said, look at all this great data. We got all of this information about your clients' values and what makes them happy and what good looks like and how they define retirement. And the advisor feedback was, I have no idea what to do with this. There's a whole lot of data here. Now what? Help me. And so then it was super easy for us to iterate on top of that. And we give the advisor synthesized insights using AI that reflect immediately back to the client what they want to hear in the meeting. So we give the advisor conversation starters, and then we give them summaries and insights, actionable insights about that client or prospect that the advisor needs to know going into the meeting. So tell me about their motivations, their values, their aspirations. What are words I should be using? What are words I shouldn't be using? What are some sensitive topics? What are some next best actions that I should bring into this meeting, and how can I surface them? And so the advisor gets, number one, always conversation starters. And the conversation starters update in real time when new data is coming into the platform. And then number two, what are the actionable things that I should be bringing into this meeting, and how can I surface them based off of everything that Knomee's learned about my client or prospect? So that's
Excellent.
the
Yes.
AI layer.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. The entire what do I do with this? I get it. Again, we're not really taught on that, right? We're taught about numbers and some understanding of the client, but not to the degree that you're looking to get into it. Okay, so that comes back. What's been the feedback thus far?
Advisors love it. I would say we are getting a tremendous amount of interest right now in the top of the funnel. How do I help you accelerate conversion? And so the feedback has been, oh my God, you're helping me say in meeting one what like I probably could have never gotten to on my own until it was like meeting 75. Yes, that's exactly what we're doing. We're giving you the language of the client so that you convert that client or prospect into a client faster. You get them to give you more assets. You consolidate more of their wealth in a way that gives them value in return because they're building trust with you. They feel like they have a level of agency. Number one, prospecting use case is really hot. A lot of our customers are very excited about using Knomee for prospecting. Number two, feedback is they're always shocked by our completion rates. 95% of clients and prospects that are introduced to Knomee and
Hmm.
click into it go all the way through. So
Wow.
95% of clients go through it. Why? Because it's not a boring questionnaire, because it's getting them to talk about what they want to talk about, because it's not asking them, tell me stuff you already know. I already know how much money I have. I already know my value of my home. All of that stuff is not giving them any value. It's, I have to share information with you to help you help me. Knomee is, we're actually guiding you to create the information that enables you to actually build trust with me so I get more out of you. And it's fun and it's delightful. So clients and prospects love it. So they're all, I do get feedback from advisors that they're initially skeptical. Will my client go through this? And then they try it with a client, and the feedback is the client absolutely loved it. I couldn't believe how much the client loved it. They don't like the feedback we sometimes get is, how come you've never asked me this question before? But it highlights
That
a gap in the advice process. It highlights to the advisor, this is what your client wants to be talking about. We're guiding you to get there. We're guiding you to actually incorporate what they care about into the conversation. And so advisors really love that we're engaging their clients, we're giving them what they need. They love the conversation starters. They love the fact that we are synthesizing the data and making it actionable and usable in the next meeting, like immediately. They're shocked. Most advisors, we love to encourage advisors to try it themselves. Go through the Knomee experience yourself, put in your own data, invite your spouse, your partner, invite one client, invite a prospect, try different use cases. But when they try it on themselves and they see the depth of the insight, they're always blown away. I can't believe you got this deep. And what we share with them is we just spit back what you shared with us. And that's what we do for the client. We are mirroring back to the client exactly what it is that they want to hear in their words. And we're being fed by the client's own words. We're deeply personalizing by bringing in the data and the language that the client needs to hear to get to that next step. So advisors are always shocked by how deep and how robust it is because they've never seen something like that before. They've seen question banks, they've seen advisor training tools, they've seen those archetypes and surveys and questionnaires. This is a very, very different product.
Fair enough. They're getting it back and they're saying they're putting it to use. I'm curious about the use cases. As they're getting that back, how are they saying they're implementing it and the impact with clients other than the fact that they're being asked questions that they never did? Like, how is it changing the ongoing relationship with the client?
Yeah, so number one is help me convert this prospect faster.
Yep.
So some of our
That'll
customers,
always make you money, converting more business,
it
100%.
is, it is. So some of the use cases that we're really excited about right now are those advisory firms that have a practice management element where they want to help their advisors grow and they want to give their advisors tools to grow. They want to give their advisors more capacity, more ability to connect better with clients. So where those firms have centralized marketing, centralized sales, they're using a Knomee URL in their sales process. They're getting their prospects at the top of the funnel to go through the Knomee experience. And then they're literally spoon feeding the advisor. Here is what you say in meeting number one with this one client who or a prospect who has gone through the Knomee experience. So that use case is getting a tremendous amount of interest right now. Number two is we're definitely a part of onboarding and getting into that first financial plan. As part of that onboarding and plan, and also in the next kind of use case is just better meeting prep. So as we focused on better meeting prep, we're excellent at capturing the voice of the silent partner or of the next generation kids who don't want to show up at a meeting. Because Knomee is digital, because we're done in a private vacuum in the security and safety of an individual and their device on which they are doing Knomee, we're gathering information without bias, without the advisor filter. We're gathering the information as the prospect or client wants it to be conveyed. And even if that prospect or client is an extreme introvert, or maybe they have a very alpha partner who never gives them any air in the meeting, we are enabling the advisor to gather that information and share it back to have a better meeting where both participants feel heard. So where two partners or partners in an extended household, everyone has an opinion about what good looks like. Everyone's got a vision of what their future is. We're enabling those voices to come through. And then the final use case I'll touch on, which we're also getting a lot of excitement about, is M&A and succession. So if I want to know a tremendous amount of information about everyone in my book of business,
Mm.
and number one, if I am either the buyer or the seller, there is a bespoke desire to create daylight between yesterday and tomorrow. So I always want my clients to believe and recognize tomorrow is going to be better. And Knomee is creating two things. Number one, we're giving the advisors or the buyers a way to say, as part of this transition, we want to really understand what wealth management means to you. What does good look like? We are improving our level of service to make sure that we're meeting you where you want to go and we're giving you the right solutions that help your family as you manage through your future. And Knomee actually captures that data to make sure that this next era, this transition, this succession is a net positive. It captures the information about the client at the point of transition. You might have an advisor who has known a client for 30 years, and then they get into a meeting and say, oh, here's Joe. I met Joe 30 years ago. We were both strapping boxes at the time and in these different earlier versions of our careers, and we've grown together. That's great. It gives you some history, but it doesn't give the person who's taking on that business a context of where is Joe now? What does Joe care about right now? That really is important for
Mm.
this successor to come in and take the bull by the horns and make sure that Joe is getting what he needs to find the most value out of what he wants his life to deliver today, not 20 years ago and not 30 years ago. The final M&A and conversion and succession use case is we have multiple measures and metrics of advisor efficacy. So there's many places within the Knomee adventures that we capture a sense of how connected is this client with this advisor. And so we ask, do you believe that working with an advisor or your advisor, we can frame it however they like, it actually helps you with your own financial wellness? Does it play a role in your financial well-being? At the level of goals, we ask, do you want help from your advisor on this one specific goal? We're helping assess and create a metric around churn risk, the ability of or the likelihood of that client to come with the advisor when they're going through a transition and bring their assets along with them.
Excellent. That's a lot of places you've helped enhance the experience already. Curious where you think you're going to take this from this point on.
From what we're hearing from the market, there's two things that are top of mind. I just came off of the Orion Ascent conference. I'm sure this is going to be true at T3 this week and Future Proof that's also next week. What I keep hearing is two themes again and again and again. One is organic growth. Growth period, but organic growth.
Everybody feels like they're struggling with that. I know. It's
That's
at
it.
least they're living up to the reality. They understand that now.
I think that's right. Growth matters. And number two is I want AI, but I want meaningful AI. I want to create advisor capacity and I want to have AI that actually drives a workflow in a way that's going to work for me and my business. And what I heard a lot at the conference last week is questions around which of these AI firms are going to be gone next year. Which of these are actually
Mhm.
delivering meaningful value? And I loved your article about this, Jason, by the way. What I kept hearing and what is inspiring to me around Knomee is a behavioral intelligence layer. We're manufacturing data. We're creating the data that feeds the AI workflow to make really meaningful AI that delivers real value to you and your clients and your prospects that drives growth in whatever stage of the funnel they're in. They could be a very top of the funnel prospect. It could be somebody who is transitioning down to the next generation. There is a way that Knomee pulls out information and delivers the value back to that client in the way that drives growth for the advisory firm. And so that's something really exciting where we hit both of those themes really strong. Number one is just we drive organic growth because we tell you what you need to know to convert. And number two, we are the ingredient. I've started calling us the super premium fuel. So when you like go and feed your car or whatever it is, I'm going to have to think of like a battery sustainable way
Mhm.
of explaining what we're doing. Anyway, we're the Tesla like 325 charger, volt charger that is the fuel for the AI agentic version of the future that recognizes they now know garbage in, garbage out. Everyone has
Mhm.
experienced hallucination. There was a great presentation at the conference where they asked AI to go down this rabbit hole about, tell me about unicorns and their habitat and what they eat. And AI went into this
Oh yeah,
whole
totally.
thing about what unicorns eat and their habitat and what kind of environment they're in. So we need to protect the proprietary data about our clients that are driving workflows that build trust, and it has to be real. And so Knome's entire ethos is zero party data. Every single bit of information that Knomee captures in the platform is from the horse's mouth. I guess going on that same unicorn theme. But the whole concept is when you're hearing directly from your client, you're building trust. When you're scraping and guessing and building propensity models and tools of likelihood, that might or might not hit. But when
Mm.
you're getting it directly from them, you know it's going to hit every single time.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. So before we wrap up, I have three questions to ask you on a positive note. First one is if you have one wish for something to change in your company or the industry as a whole, what would it be?
I would love to replicate myself a million times because capacity as a founder in an early stage company is extremely hard. I am thrilled with a lot of things that we're getting right. I think that the one thing I would like to change is just making sure that I am doing the right thing at the right time to serve value to my customers all day, every day.
Fantastic. All right. And one echoed by every last founder ever, because God knows how painful it is not to have five versions of ourselves.
Oh, really? Oh, man, I
Yeah.
hate hearing that I'm like just a super generic version of everyone
No,
else's.
that just means that means your aspirations are bigger than your current abilities to basically do that, and that's a positive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, second question is, what's been the biggest challenge in the company to where it is today?
100%. I know exactly the answer to this question. It's positioning. So, positioning and telling our story effectively, getting it to be clear and crisp. Nomi is not a version of something that exists. We are a category creator. That means that we hold much more weight than a lot of other startups out there. We
Hmm.
have to make sure we're telling our story in a way that fits into your file folder in your brain, that understands what we do, how we do it, how you're going to use it, and how it's going to drive value for you. That is really hard. That's been the hardest thing. And I've been at this for over 3 years. Positioning, positioning, positioning matters. If I can tell my story in a way that you know how to ingest it, how to recognize how it's delivering value to you, then I'm doing great. It's way harder than you might imagine for a company that's building a net new innovation.
So that said, so absolutely. And I would say that the other issue is it's a lot harder to sell going from good to great than it is to sell something core and essential, right? So
Yes.
it is the real, but at the end of the day, as long as you can keep at it, you can start to prove the metrics of where and how you can enhance the situation, then yes, you will gain ground. But it is not as simple as dealing with a core need, unfortunately. Let me take a step back. The problem is it should be a core need, and
Yeah,
it's
I was
not.
going to say, I don't know if
Yeah,
I would agree with you there. I actually
it
think it's
should be.
absolutely a core.
It's a yeah, but it's like human satisficed. We don't optimize. That's the reality of it. We basically most people settle for good enough, and unfortunately, good enough is in this case your enemy, and good enough is I'm already getting paid, as opposed to oh my, they're like simple example, right? I was having this conversation about lazy advisors the other day, and it was just not all advisors are lazy, but some are. And I think back to this one stat I heard on insurance that something like insurance advisors who use needs analysis tools end up selling something like 25-30% more in premium over the course of a year versus those that don't. And we're not talking something sophisticated. We're talking like, here's a form and you need like 7 numbers and you do a little bit of math and then you're going to basically make that much more, yet less than 10% actually do it. And it's unfortunately, people aren't always willing to do the thing that's best for them. So if I think if advisors take themselves more of the advisor base takes themselves more seriously in terms of being actual professionals and craft and not just product sales, but focus more on delivery of self-actualization to the human, then frankly, they'll absolutely look at your tool in a far more positive way and something that is essential as opposed to good enough.
If I may add, I think there's a time clock, let's call it a stopwatch on when does it turn from nice to have to absolute need. And I think that it's going really fast right now. I think that advisors started off as I can help you allocate a portfolio. And now we're seeing that becoming more commoditized. And then they said, I can give you a whole bunch of different products. I can allocate your portfolio and give you a private equity
Yeah.
allocation and an estate plan and an insurance policy. And now I can even do credit. Great. That's also becoming quick commoditized. I think we're fast entering an era of if you actually want to get more value, you need to know more about me.
Yep.
And the more you know about me, the more differentiated and more trust you'll build, and the more I'll justify my service.
Yeah. And I will say that people can go searching for the next thing to sell. That's not a moat at all.
Right.
Access to anything is not a moat. Everything an advisor does is going to be commoditized. What's not commoditized is our human understanding. And
100%.
frankly, and because also it's not scalable, right? It's not scalable. The individual cannot understand an infinite number of people. And the last question I have for you is what excites you the most about what it is you're working on and keeps you getting out of bed in the morning to fight the good fight?
Everything I'm doing is related to aligning my money with my values. How do I help more people align their money and their values so that they are having the impact in line with how they define purpose in life? That is what keeps me going every single day. It is going from deep into how our industry operates into no, we should be totally focused on our clients. And we should enable our clients. I love how you frame it all around self actualization. That's exactly right. If you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, our power is in our capital. And we think about how much, I'll speak for myself, how much do I fuss about a $50 purchase? But my ultimate power and my ability to have impact in line with what I define as purpose is way more in the way that I'm making big financial decisions. My investing, my philanthropy, what I give to my kids, when I give to my kids, those decisions are what Knomee empowers. That is what keeps me going every single day, is giving people a way to recognize your capital is your power. It's your ability to actually change the world, to be in the world as you want to be in the world, to self-actualize, recognizing that your capital is an extension of you. And so, how do you define that and give your capital this framework, this rubric of accountability, including all of the individuals that you entrust to make decisions on your behalf so that your capital still has that rubric of accountability, regardless of who is making the decisions day in and day out?
Excellent. Keep at it because what you're doing is adding important contextual information about human beings so that we can better make human beings' lives better. So it's incredible. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it.
So that was Marla Sofer of Knomee. If you are looking for a tool to help you better understand what it is that makes your clients tick and therefore better connect with them and just basically be more valuable to them, by all means, take a look at Knomee. As always, if you enjoy this podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, take care.
This podcast was brought to you by Woodgate Financial, an award-winning financial planning firm catering to high net worth individuals and their families. To learn more, go to woodgate.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or find more episodes at jasonpereira.ca.